Look at
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Pat, how are you, my friend?
fantastic. I mean, it's good to see all this winning from the left. COVID's
Yeah,
over. I could just
COVID
go on and on. Economy's doing great. The
economy's
middle
doing great.
class.
Hey, what I keep hearing from a lot of people is Dems actually did better than they expected on this fake debt ceiling crisis.
Yeah, they won all the areas they wanted to win and where they weren't going to negotiate with terrorists, but they won
Biden
the
got
terrorist
everything,
negotiation.
everything he wanted for the past 40 years and then some. No, not he could still do a little more damage. Let's face it. He could still do
Yeah.
more.
Four
He's got
more
another
years
year.
of damage.
um, I made a mistake, and that is I made myself this dirty Dem Martini that we were talking about, but it was only after I took a few sips that I realized that my olives and olive juice are about a year and a half old. And so I'm feeling a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Not
And
not an auspicious beginning.
thanks to your mistake. See, this is where I'm wise because I think I'm
Tell
what, a
me.
couple days older than you or something.
No, I don't know. I don't want to get into
Couple
that
months.
that fight.
Since you told me that, I avoided my old olives in the fridge
Shut
because they've
up.
got to be years and years old.
Yeah.
But I countered that by not having a martini glass, which is just
So it was,
realized.
our intro finally went super smoothly, but our drink for the first time in 2 years,
Yes.
the libations are a little subpar.
But
Um,
kudos to Iconoclast, friend
yes.
in real life. Well, parasocial friend. We play game night together, and she's hilarious. So she came up with the idea of the Dirty Dem Martini. So
The dirty Dem Martini. I like it. And I do like it. I do like a dirty martini. As you all know, I'm an actress, and I had one of those kind of crazy rehearsals that our director, I think I've even told this story before, but anyway, our director told us to show up in character to the Beverly Hilton. This was like 20 years ago. And I was this trashed. I played a lot of, like, prostitutes with a heart of gold kind of character, right? So I come in and I'm like drinking my dirty martinis, which went down so smoothly. Next thing I knew, I was skinny dipping in the pool at the Beverly Hilton. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up on my director's floor and they had to call my husband to come get me. So
awkward.
awkward. It was kind of awkward, but
Acting.
acting. That was my last dirty martini for quite some time. But and this one does not passing muster, so I'm going to go back to my vodka diet tonic. But anyway, we are super excited to bring some class to the show today. We have Mark Paul, who is a political economist, assistant professor at the, I'm going to say it wrong, Bluestein or Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University, who just published his book, The Ends of Freedom. And we are so excited to have you here this evening, Professor Paul. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. And fair warning, I think we mentioned that we do drink through the show, and hoping you might join in.
I came fully prepared.
Awesome. What do you have there?
Got a good old Sculpin IPA brewed in sunny San Diego, which is spent last year in Southern California, and already miss it a little bit.
That's where I'm broadcasting from. I'm in Los Angeles and Pat's up in Sacramento. So good. Yeah, and you have a connection to the California vibe. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but didn't Sculpin sell to one of the big companies for like $1 billion?
They've all sold out, right? I mean, this is capitalism at work.
But that was a real shocker to me, because they came across as a small micro brand and suddenly were worth like $1 billion, which
just, I mean, all of a sudden, I think it's the sunny San Diego vibe just like pulls people in. I mean, they make a good beer, and the big breweries can't figure out how to make a beer to market to millennials with money. And so what do? They buy up the small successful breweries and pump up their name and make people think they're still small.
Yeah.
Even though they're not.
Yeah. It gives you that sort of moral rectitude, right? Well, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Good beer. So we're first of all, I'm so excited to have you on. I love the clarity that you talk about, the difference between freedom to and freedom from. Because I think that's a big problem in this country. But why don't you please lay out for us sort of some of the points that you're hoping to make or that you made with your book, so we can just sort of give a broad overview to our viewers.
Sure. So my book, The Ends of Freedom, came out just 2 weeks ago, and it's really trying to do two things. So first of all, I'm sure your viewers are familiar with the idea of neoliberalism. We all have a couple books sitting on our bookshelves that talk about how neoliberalism is either dead or dying. There's just one more nail to put in the coffin, although, Biden's trying to keep at least part of it alive.
I feel like it's
right
killing
now.
us.
Yeah.
It's not dying, it's killing us, but yes.
Well, I think those are both true. I think they're both true.
Yeah.
But we have almost no books that lay out an affirmative vision of what the economy for the 99% really looks like. I mean, I spent weeks sleeping on the concrete at Occupy as a young PhD student, talking about the economy with people from devout, communists to folks who are trying to abolish the Federal Reserve in the name of Rand Paul. And folks were just largely, I think, kind of confused about what an economy that centers people, that centers human well-being really looks like. And so I set out to write a book that talked about what the vision for that economy is. What should we actually be working towards? And I lay out the policy details. But the second thing I try to do is really reclaim the very idea of freedom. I mean, it's our most powerful idea in our political discourse, yet the right totally owns it. And the left has tried to do, zilch in terms of reclaiming it and actually standing it up in an offensive manner. I mean, the left's really always on defense, I think, in general. I should at least say Democrats are always on defense. And so I'm trying to go on offense here and reclaim the idea of freedom while grounding it in kind of this forgotten American history where, we always talk about the founders, from the conservative standpoint. But in fact, there are some fairly radical founders like Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Paine who argued that each and every person is entitled to a slice of the economic pie, not as welfare, not as charity, but as their damn birthright. That everybody should share in the bounty of our country as a matter of being, a citizen. And so lifting up a lot of this untold history, I think, is really important for folks to both better understand American history, but also realize that many of the things that, modern day progressives are fighting for have deep roots in the American tradition itself.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you lay it out so beautifully. At the beginning of COVID, when liberals pretended they cared about spreading a mass debilitating disease also, and they were super frustrated with, the MAGA contingent who, but my freedoms and I don't want to wear a mask and everything. And there was so much blame and castigation put on half the country or whatever that percentage is. Pat and I did a lot on our show trying to remind people that systemically, this whole country has been conditioned to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and, the freedom, the individuality, and all of these things that are really, I think, wonderful ideas, especially in sports and movies and art and individuality, of course, of expression. But I think that the flip side of that, and I have to believe it was sort of intentional in these last 40 years, was to really make people believe that they are owed nothing from their government. And it's all about exceptionalism. And you too can do it if you are, 0.001% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of freedom was limited government, as Grover Norquist put it. You got to shrink government down to size so you can just strangle in the bathtub. So limited government coupled with free markets, which is a farce in and of itself, but maybe we'll get into that later, was kind of invented of this idea of modern day freedom. But what's crazy is if you kind of look back in history to say the civil rights movement, that's not at all how freedom was talked about. Freedom for people like Martin Luther King or Ella Baker or A. Philip Randolph, our kind of key civil rights leader, wasn't only about limited government, nor was it only about, for instance, the right to vote, which is how we often focus on the civil rights movement today. But but it was also about economic rights, the right to a job, the right to healthcare, right? Bernie always ran on healthcare as a human right, not a privilege.
Right.
The right to an education that doesn't come with, $100,000 in debt tagged along with it.
Right.
The right to housing. I mean, today, half of renters can't afford their rent. And it's not because they're living beyond their means, it's because their means are being denied to them. Affordable housing just doesn't exist in the
Right.
United States these days. But that's not because it can't exist, right? We can look to plenty of other countries or to American history to see that's not the case. It's because we've chosen for it not to.
Yeah.
And so what I want people to understand and take away here is that, our political reality is something we've created, which sucks. But the upside of that is that we created it. And so we can create something different. And
Right.
so I try to lay that out, how we would actually go about doing that. What are the policy choices that we could make that would, really redirect our economy and kind of build pathways towards a just and equitable economy that works for people, that ensures folks have a job, have a home, and other basic necessities actually met.
So how do you envision doing that in a system that doesn't allow for those policies to be passed? I mean, even when you've got a party that pretends to care about those policies, if they don't actually truly advocate for them, what are we left with? As a historian and an economist, how do we break through this?
It's the this is the true $1 trillion question that matters, right? Is how do we actually enact this change? And if I had the silver bullet, I mean, hey, we'd be well on our way. What I can say is that as an economist, my goal was to debunk a lot of the arguments traditionally, leveled against these bold progressive claims. I mean, both in 2016 and 2020, when you had people like Senator Sanders running, and then today, a lot of the members of the squad, you have people that are constantly hurling, verbal bombs at them, saying their economic agenda will tank the economy and will make us all collectively poor. So for me, step one was debunking those arguments and explaining precisely why a bold progressive economic agenda that I think we need to unify around an economic bill of rights, precisely because, one common attack is what ties Medicare for all to college for all to a job guarantee. And I do think the lack of kind of coherent vision of what that connective tissue is was a problem, and remains a problem for the left today. And that's part of what I'm trying to solve. But, by debunking that, in fact, the economic, kind of neoliberal economic points constantly brought up against these bold ideas are simply wrong, is one part. And then the second part is showing that, like, hey, yeah, Finland does have a economy that's better structured than ours, but we don't only need to look to Finland or Denmark or France. We can look back in our own history to talk about and to see when we fought to expand access to healthcare and expand access to housing and education. And I think that's important because people want an American story. People are hungry for an American story, and they feel like the only American story accessible to them is one of the police state, is one of limited government, is one of, rebelling against taxation. But that's not the case. We have a robust progressive American history and story that we fail to tell. So those are the two parts that I attack. Now, does that mean we're going to pass an economic bill of rights next week? Of course not, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is arm both, arm folks, our listeners here tonight, as well as, say, congressional staffers, your New York Times and Wall Street Journal readership, with the arguments to try to advance this type of agenda. It's going to take a movement. Things like the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act or the New Deal, none of these types of legislation were passed simply based on ideas. They were passed by movements.
Right.
So we need to continue to build popular movements to push for progressive economic reform. But, let's also, we're at this like really exciting and scary time in our political history right now. I mean, the tectonic plates of our political landscape are shifting faster than at any point in our lifetime. So, we have the rise of demagogues like Ron DeSantis and Trump, but we also have the squad in Congress. I mean, think about how exciting that is compared to the 1990s when, like, your options were Bill Clinton or Bill Clinton.
Right.
So I do think we're coming quite a far way in building out the progressive bench. and really changing how policymakers are kind of addressing economic concerns. There's so long to go,
Yeah,
but
so I agree with you. And there is certainly, I feel like, some reason for optimism. When I look, and we talk about this quite a bit, at the exit polls from 2020, the Fox News exit polls, every single Bernie position was majority popular with Fox viewers. So I feel like the messaging has basically won with most of the country, except for the 538 people in Congress who could actually not listen to their corporate donors, even if they believe it, even if they don't take corporate money, but they vote 91% of the time with Biden, who says that he would, says he'll cancel part of student debt and then not so much, and then ties it to the COVID emergency, or said that he would veto Medicare for all. Like, if you're voting 91% of the time with that guy, you're not listening actually to the people who put you in office. And that's where I feel so frustrated that we aren't making like much movement, because I do think that most of the country agrees. Like, they agree, Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, a living wage, public housing, or some sort of, so that's where I am the most frustrated.
yeah, and I mean, I think those frustrations are totally justified. We actually polled voters on this idea of an economic bill of rights, and the vast majority of voters, 2/3, support it, including the majority of Republicans and independents.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to point out that this is not where we were 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Times are changing,
Yeah.
and I wish we had the just economy we deserve and need
Right.
today or tomorrow, but it's going to be a fight. But I do think that popular movements are continuing to gain traction, from Black Lives Matter to the Black Youth Project to Sunrise Movement in the climate space. I think that we are starting to make changes, and is that going to fix the problems of the person who's homeless or the person who's making minimum wage today? Absolutely not. But what we need to do is keep holding our politicians accountable. We need to continue to get involved and stay involved in our political process. Because if we give up on politics, we've lost the ball game, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can all agree we're not playing on a level playing field. And so, this is why we need to both get money out of politics, but also to show the American people that, progressives can deliver for them in terms of the economy. I think that we need to work on both of those fronts simultaneously. And that's how
Right.
we change the swamp of Washington.
Yeah. One of the things I really love that you write about is that beyond just, we're all so like paycheck to paycheck, and how are you going to put food on the table and pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever. But like, part of freedom, even if your taxes are more, but you get more for those taxes, so you have actually, it's a net gain, but you also can have the freedom to do nothing, to go on a vacation, to garden, to do, just to explore hobbies. And I feel like that has been so lost in it. Feels like such an indulgence to even talk about being able to pursue something outside of just, making the next dollar. So I love that thought. Yeah.
There's a real war on our time. I mean, when we talk about, hey, I'm an economist. One of our favorite things to talk about is scarcity. For me, scarcity, it doesn't exist really when it comes to money or our actual resources to make sure that everybody has, a college degree and high quality healthcare. Where scarcity really exists is time, though.
Right.
And, part of it is because bosses are intentionally stealing our time. I mean, Americans work 47 hours a week. Compared to Germany, we work a full month longer on average. That's a month that we could be sitting on the beach with our families, or
Yeah.
going to the bar and shooting pool with our friends, or, I've recently picked up gardening myself as a hobby. I know you just mentioned it. And I love it. It's just like, talk about I can't meditate. I'm a busybody. I can't
Right.
freaking sit and stare into space forever, but I can sit there and dig in the dirt.
Right.
And and we all deserve freedom to enjoy our hobbies. I mean, life isn't about making one more dollar, nor is it about winning the game of the economy. It needs to be about building community, pursuing passions, engaging in democracy. These are the things that matter. Yet we've structured an economy that just steals our time, which is our life, from us.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I really feel like Medicare for all is sort of the umbrella that can help in all the other areas of life, because once your healthcare isn't tied to employment, that liberates you in so many other ways to pursue other goals. Because I can be the most lefty guy in the world and say, you know, I'm gonna boycott my work. I'm gonna do all this stuff, but if I have kids, I got to feed, and I got to keep in healthcare. How do I? I can't do that, but I can pursue other options if you have healthcare. So to me, like, once you equalize the healthcare situation, it opens up a lot of avenues in other ways.
Yeah, Milton Friedman, who is the economist we love to hate, was right about one thing. His book was entitled "Free to Choose," and I agree with him. We need to be free to choose, but we just differ so radically in how we actually get to an economy where people have the freedom to decide what they do for work, how long they work, if they actually pursue an education, right? But pursuing an education and getting 100 or $200,000 of debt, that's not freedom. That's called indentured servitude. And so I want people to be free. And I think that, Medicare for all is one of the most fundamental and important reforms. I think the other one that I put right up there is this idea of a job guarantee. And that's because if people have a guaranteed access to a high quality job from the government, it gives them the power to really push back against their exploitative employers once and for all. I mean, right now, employers constantly have so much power that they're, kind of hanging over workers' heads day in and day out. I mean, they can tell workers who to marry. They can tell workers, they can, tell them what type of political activity they can engage in. They can tell them what customers to serve and the like. I mean, really, they're private dictators is what employers are today. But by creating, a true exit option through government employment, I think we've radically rebalanced the power between workers and the bosses throughout the economy.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the gig economy? I mean, that's, how does that factor into your positions? And what do you see happening with the gig economy in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the gig economy was supposed to provide workers with more freedom. They can choose when they work, how long they work, and all these beautiful
Thanks,
things.
Obama.
Yeah, and it's just worked so well. So, I mean, look, it's a complicated question. I mean, healthcare that you brought up a moment ago is a really good point here. Most people only get healthcare if they're working full time for their employer. And there's a lot of people that would like to work part time. I don't know about you, but I don't really care to work 40 hours a week, 25, 30. That sounds nice to me. But there's not that many opportunities to actually work, part time. And so folks are forced into full-time work. And there, that's part of the interest in the gig economy in the first place, was people wanted to work part-time for a variety of reasons. Now, the gig economy in general sucks. It has not worked out the way it was supposed to. And a lot of that is because of really poor regulation. So when I think about how is it that we kind of change the economy we have today to get to where we need to go, I kind of think about things in a couple different buckets. So one example we've been talking about a lot is healthcare. We just need to straight up decommodify healthcare. The market should play no role in deciding who lives and who dies when it comes to medical treatment, just none at all. I agree with this for education too. I mean, K through 12, we already took the market out of education. For some reason, we decided to put it back in when it comes to college. It's time to get it out of get education out of the market there too. The second area is thinking about how to better regulate markets. And this is where the gig economy comes in. We need to set reasonable floors in markets. Nobody can make under certain wages. Nobody can be exploited in different ways, according to labor laws. And thanks to corporate interests, namely places like Uber, we've ensured that the gig economy is focused on exploitation rather than providing workers with the real flexibility and choice that it kind of purports to. So, we need to recapture those regulations and actually, regulate in the public interest. And the final part that I like to talk about a lot is putting ceilings in the economy. So we like to talk about floors, minimum wages, rent control, and the like, but we never talk about ceilings. But we need to. One example is a maximum income, something we just never talk about. But it's time to actually put a limit on income. People, one of folks' favorite slogans today is eat the rich. Well, sure, but I don't find Jeff Bezos particularly appetizing to me. So I'd like to tax him down to a normie is what I'd like to do. I don't know
Yeah.
what the right number is. FDR proposed the equivalent of $425,000 today. Maybe that's the right number, or maybe it's $1 million. But that's the conversation we should be having.
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember, it's interesting how far right liberals have gone. I remember Bill Maher, when I used to watch him like 20 years ago, making fun of Republican voters voting against their interests like they would ever be a millionaire. But they vote like, oh, someday I might have that much money and it would be taxed. And now I feel like liberals have just all gone right also, and they all sort of think that they're on their way to, like if you talk about that, even if you say nobody should be a billionaire or billionaires shouldn't exist, they take offense. And even if you're a millionaire, you're closer to being homeless than you are to being a billionaire, but they sort of can't wrap their minds around that. But yeah, I think that if we could somehow implement a much more progressive taxation of people, we'd be a little closer to democracy, because right now they have just it's so much more weighted. There's no way my one vote can't even begin to hold a candle to Jamie Dimon. And the other thing is like this thing where so often people, Democrats will say, oh, you're just going to take your ball and go home. You're not going to, but the people who actually threaten to do that, who are the CEOs, the Wall Street people, who apparently now think that neither Trump nor DeSantis nor Biden, so sorry, neither shouldn't be for three people, but anyway, none of them is going to represent their business interests enough, those three. So like the Jamie Dimons of the world are now not pledging to vote for any one of those three and looking for somebody else. Those are the people who are always threatening to take their ball and go home, and they get what they want every time.
Money buys power, right?
Yeah.
But in a country that tries to purport itself as a democracy, this is precisely why we need to, knock the rich down, not just a peg or two, but many, many pegs.
Yeah.
We need to, basically reclaim the economy and push our way out of this oligarchy we found ourselves in. We love to talk about democracy, but why is it that democracy ends at the gate where the economy begins? It shouldn't. We need to deepen our democratic values into the economic realm. And that means that Jeff Bezos, Jamie Dimons, Elon Musk's, they can't exist, at least not in their current incarnation.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we got some work cut out for ourselves, how to get to that place, because I know they're not going to vote to get taxed out of existence.
No, they won't. But guess what? The masses are in favor of it.
Yeah. Pat, do you have any other questions? I'm going to look down at my, my notes to make sure.
It just reminds me of the studies that have shown that the public's support of a policy has no bearing on it passing or not passing. Like there's for both parties, it makes no difference really where the public stands on something. That doesn't mean we can't change things, but it means we're up against a tough hill.
We are, but movements do matter. So I agree with you. Popular opinion, when it's not mobilized, doesn't tend to have much of an effect in terms of passage of policies. But movements time and time again have shown to be incredibly effective. I think even just recently, the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, don't get me wrong, not perfect. It's a down payment at best on what we need to actually deliver in terms of climate. But there's no way that would have happened without the groundswell of youth in the streets demanding action on the climate crisis. That didn't happen just because climate policy is popular. It happened because groups organized, mobilized, and really brought their power to Washington in important ways. And look, they got, a fifth of what they were asking for. But it's still an important fifth. And unfortunately, policies policy change just doesn't happen as quickly as we might like to think. I mean, the New Deal is a good example. I don't know if you know this fun fact, but people love to talk about the New Deal as if it was 1 or 2 pieces of legislation. It was over 100 pieces of legislation that make up what historians today call the New Deal when we look back in time. It took a decade to pass.
Yeah, that is a slightly comforting. I mean, not that a decade feels like a really long time, but that does feel better than just like, like sometimes it takes looking back at something to see the progress that you've made, because when you're in it, it can feel like glacially slow. And as you pointed out, but like in the meantime, people are becoming, homeless or dying because they can't see a doctor or whatever. So like that, it's not okay that it takes that long, but yes, sometimes it just is how it moves, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that's assuming we stay on track. I mean, you've got like just recently the debt ceiling has got a pipeline approved for Manchin in it. So like to give them
if you came here looking for optimism, Professor, you're not going to find it with us.
No, I mean, hey, look, I'm not extremely optimistic either. I mean, I think there's a good chance that with Biden as our nominee, the Republicans recapture the White House. I mean, I'm terrified of it. Yeah. But I think that unless we offer an optimistic vision and future, then we're royally screwed. And so, that's really what I'm trying to do here is show that alternatives possible. Is it going to be easy to achieve? Absolutely not. I mean, but can we continue to make marginal changes that improve lives as we, what I like to say is build pathways to socialism? I mean, that's really what it's about for me. Yeah. It's how do we actually build pathways to socialism? Public schools, that's a pathway to socialism. I mean, truly, libraries. I mean, libraries are one of the most radical things we have. Could you imagine, a modern day neoliberal designing the library? I mean, you need to present your tax forms when you go in to get your library card, and that your late book fee depends on your income bracket. I mean, it'd be an utter mess.
Yeah,
it'd be an utter mess. They're a beautiful public good that we all get to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you because I do think that, language is power, and being able to, one of the things about Bernie's campaign, both in 2016 and 2020, it was just so easy to say, and then it had nothing to do on some level with him anymore. It's like, these are the things I stand for. These are my red lines that I won't vote for somebody who isn't for this, and the other thing. And they were very clear policy positions. They were universal. But then also to be able to answer the question with it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you can lay it out, but how do we pay for this? And why do we talk about, why is personal safety or care the only thing we ever ask, but never, we invest in death and destruction every chance we get, right? Biden's increased the military budget. He's increased the police budget. Like, that's where we always seem to have money, and nobody asks where that money is coming from. So to be able to have a conversation and be equipped with the language, I think is so important. And I think you do such a really fantastic job of that in your book. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Mark.
The book is The Ends of Freedom. And there's a link to buy it from the University of Chicago Press in the description link on YouTube. So please go support Professor Mark Paul. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. Right. Cheers. Take care. I loved this book. I loved everything he has to say. It's the frustrating thing always is I don't think we have to convince the people on the outside of the halls of power. That's the problem. I mean, of course there are some people, but the other thing that so many liberals will come back with the right and all of corporate media. Well, if Bernie was so popular, then why didn't more people vote for him? And then you can't talk about gerrymandering. You can't talk about voter suppression. You can't talk about corporate media. You can't talk about, I don't know. I feel like we are up against such an enormous mountain. It's hard for me to find the positivity.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I land on this, obviously, but I do see a tremendous value in his book in the sense that we do need the language to speak about these issues. We do need the economic arguments that the system we're fighting for with socialism, personally, that's what I'm fighting for, is a net benefit that still is doable, that we can show that it's better for people and it's not going to economically ruin our country for one.
Yeah.
But we need to take that argument to the politicians and force them to adopt these sane beliefs more so than necessarily convincing our neighbors. But, part of it is, at the end of the day, our centrist normie friends, they fall into these arguments because they think, well, Trump will win. So we can't push something radical like socialism or leftist ideas. And at the last second, they'll fall in line and keep propping up these shitty Democrats. So, maybe there is value in convincing more people of this as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I have a very small outreach ability, but as much as possible, I tell everybody I'll never vote for corruption. I will never vote for Joe Biden the last person I voted for that I vomited in my mouth as I did it was Hillary Clinton in 2016, because I did, I hated her, but I did think I can't let Trump win. I'll never, ever do that again. And I think the more people who say that openly, just like defund the police, I try to say that as much as possible in a, polite conversation. Cause I feel like the more you just wrap your mouth around stuff that can feel abrasive to people and let them know, the better. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we have to normalize not accepting shitty Democrats, and they have, the centrist Democrats or liberal friends need to realize the Democratic Party needs our votes, and they don't feel like they need our votes.
Right.
They still believe that evil guy on the right is enough to get us to vote Democrat, even so they don't have to argue with us over these things. They just point to the right and go, look at that crazy fucker. You're going to vote for him? That's it. That's where their brain conversation ends.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think it's time to hash it out. I need a shot.
Shot? Should we just have a shot? Let's pour a shot while we cue our music.
Yeah. It's taken, wait a second. Look at that. Perfect timing. I just got it ready to go. I got my little label here. Cheers. I'm finally feeling better from the putrid olive.
Bourbon is kind of a nice relief after a martini.
Yeah. I'm liking my non-rotted vodka without the olives in it.
All right, let's get to our will. All right.
Got it.
Dems won't get my vote either, I guarantee.
Yeah. All right. What do we got? Owned 2024. Rich economy, climate changed, what COVID? Let's spin the wheel.
Yeah. Oh, I should probably pull the wheel up to spin. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Good thing that we had that shot first. Jesus. Good
Is that a
little... All right. What do we got here? We got a lot of horrible stuff. I mean, I know first of all, this is what we were supposed to do. A new study just found we are on track to burst through the safe limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming by 2027. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is code red for humanity. We need an uprising. We need revolution in all aspects of our lives. There is no alternative.
Yeah, and we've literally just accepted that this is going to happen. The news doesn't even talk about it anymore. It's just going to keep getting fucking worse. You recycle. You guys got to recycle.
Recycle. Well, that whole thing with whoops, there we go. Nice job. I was fishing the buttons. That whole carbon footprint that personal responsibility and was all a device used by, Chevron and all the big oil corporations to like unload the catastrophes that they knew were coming because of them onto individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, and like, obviously keep doing your recycling. Like Sacramento's instituted compost bins now, so we have,
that's good. We do too. Yeah.
Third. And I think that's spreading, but like, that's not going to save us.
No.
That's not it. That's just gives you the personal, like, oh, look at me, I'm doing my part here, but that's not enough. The corporations and the military are the biggest polluters there are.
Absolutely. Yes. I thought this was interesting. And of course, the right is hating on her for it. Greta Thunberg used to say her goal was to protect the planet from climate change. I know we're still figuring out her layout, but she now admits it's to overthrow the whole capitalist system, which she says is responsible for imperialism, oppression, genocide, racist, oppressive extractionism. I mean, she's 100% right, but Michael Schellenberger, who's, a right winger, is taking issue with it. But that's 100% what we need to be doing. We're not going to fix it otherwise. We are not runaway growth is never going to get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, and if our plan is to take over the Democratic Party, which is what progressives in the squad will have you believe is what we got to do, you got to push back on the Democratic Party, and they're not pushing back on the Democratic Party on the climate, on healthcare, on COVID protections. They're not showing any sign of fight. So, when people say we should have some faith in the squad or whatever, it's
oh my God,
where's your fight? Show me. Like, I'll start believing you if you start doing something.
Just do one fucking thing. Anything.
One thing.
The Forest Service has bent to the will of the oil and gas industry and is placing fossil fuel profits above our environment and public safety. Outrage as Biden administration says the Mountain Valley Pipeline can run through the national forest for his good friend, Joe Manchin. The guy who he claimed was, going against his whole platform, his signature legislation, his big enemy who was holding up his agenda. He just gave him a pipeline that will destroy the area that it runs through, of course.
Yeah. So, okay, if you want to have some positives, I mean, people are pushing back on this. I mean, it's becoming sort of public knowledge, the bad stuff in the bill.
Yeah, but it's always like David Sirota. You know what I mean? It's always just like the few left independent journalists. I haven't heard, I mean, I don't really watch cable news, but I mean, I don't know. Has there been any discussion of this disgusting, the debt deal gives fossil fuel lobby a legal shield from the climate disaster that they know is going to happen. It's already built in. They just know that they're going to have to pay some big fine or not. But they
this is the same guy, Sirota, in the same article, Lever News, which is his article. Unfortunately, he's got to quote tweet himself because nobody's covering this shit. But Democrats have refused to use legislation to block court challenges to abortion rights, voting rights, and civil rights. But they're now using the legislation, which is the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling, the budget they've agreed to on that, are using that to block court challenges to a gas pipeline that would enrich their fossil fuel donors. But so this is what I meant to point out, not this Sirota stuff, but climate activists are getting out there and raising some hell. So we got to keep doing that. That's all we can do. I mean,
yeah, it's just keep, and of course, Senator Schumer is one of the people getting money from these fossil fuel lobbyists. So, it's on both sides of the aisle, as we all know. But the thing that terrifies me is that now they are making protest illegal, basically, and they're, what are we, eco-terrorists now if you protest against capital? I mean, they're using all of the tricks, which is always so interesting. It's what Nazis did. They didn't just exterminate the Jews. They kind of they went through a legal system to make it, to enshrine it in law. And that's what's happening now in our country. We've got the Supreme Court that just on a 5-4 decision, I think even what's his name? Kavanaugh spoke up in anger against this. But in a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court severely weakened the Clean Water Act in Sackett versus EPA, catastrophic loss for water protections across the country, and a win for big polluters, putting our communities, public health, and local ecosystems in danger. I think we need to abolish the Supreme Court.
We do. I mean, we need to abolish the debt ceiling. Biden could have done that. I guess we'll say that for the other section, but expand the Supreme Court. I mean, we have so many systems that don't serve the country at all.
Yeah. Or democracy on any level. Yeah.
But instead we're getting our whole hope to save the climate is Biden versus Trump. That's why we got Biden.
Yep.
And he always wanted Rahm Emanuel, but there was a public pressure to keep Rahm out of any position in his
cabinet,
White House cabinet.
Yeah.
But here he is, embracing him again. He's pushing for a pipeline that even the corporations didn't want. Like he's trying to attract investors. He's like a timeshare salesman for oil,
for liquefied natural gas. Yeah. Biden officials teaming up with Republicans to pitch an 800-mile gas pipeline. And I mean, yeah, exactly. It has struggled to attract investors. It's that unpopular, even with people who would sell their mothers for, a penny. Wrote about a proposed 800-mile pipeline through Alaska's melting permafrost, which has long failed to attract investors. Eager to sell gas to Asia, White House has helped de-risk the project for private capital and enlisted Rahm Emanuel to crusade for it. That's your climate president.
That's
the lesser evil.
The urgency of the climate is completely lost on all of the left now. I mean, all Democrats, normal Democrats are just like, what can we do?
This is another one by the Colorado River. They're running oil trains through an accident-prone canyon on the banks of a river that 40 million people rely on for water. And there's our beautiful transportation secretary, Mayor Pete, who speaks 1,800 languages and can barely think about transportation. And and then this is horrible.
His own administration is lawyering up to refuse. They're backtracking on East Palestine. They're not going to answer whether Norfolk Southern performed prohibited open burn of toxic vinyl chloride train cars. I mean, they're lawyering up.
They're protecting themselves. The people who are supposed to be protecting the country. And wasn't the EPA formed under Nixon? I mean, that's just like amazing to me. That one of the worst, horrible presidents, always like that. He was, crooked Nixon, had to resign in disgrace and all that. And we've got the new FDR, who is his EPA is lawyering up to protect themselves for lying about the lack of protection they were trying to give to the people of East Palestine. We are in the upside down world.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that this stuff's tanking Pete. It's tanking Biden, but is that good news? Because then you get Trump or, there's no good news coming out of any of this stuff, really.
Yeah. If you came here for an uplift today, just start drinking a little more.
It's not the day for me.
It's not.
I have nothing but bad news to report.
All right. What else do we have on climate? Anything?
Oh, well, Kalamazoo was poisoned.
Yeah. I lost my 17-year-old daughter to an asthma attack. My 32-year-old son is on life support. Kalamazoo, Michigan resident Deanne, her poor Black neighborhood is being poisoned by multi-billion-dollar corporation Graphic Packaging, who's releasing 30-plus toxic and foul-smelling gases into the atmosphere. We know that rich communities won't allow those sorts of plants or railway lines to go through their communities. So they're shielded just by location, at least for a while. I mean, until it trickles into their soil and water,
Into the
which
soil eventually,
and air, which of course it will. Those Canadian wildfires that are like burning hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, that air is polluting. Like my son goes to school in Minnesota and he can barely breathe, and he's not, these things are in the atmosphere. So I don't know why wealthy people think that they're going to be protected from the devastation they're sort of pushing on the rest of us. But yeah, so Jordan Sheridan is another person who's obviously a great reporter and does continue to follow these climate stories, but few and far between.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Are we got more climate?
We could keep going with some bad stuff. 30 tons of explosive ammonium nitrate vanished. It's gone. Whatever. Good job, Pete. Let's see. New research indicates that wealthy countries should contribute up to 90% of the finance that's required for global climate mitigation because we are causing 90% of the climate problems.
Just our military alone,
Bong rip.
Bong rip. Cheers. Nick's gonna be a leftist. That's hilarious. Thank you that you don't come here for the for the uplift. We'll just remind you to keep on drinking. Yeah, I know. That I do think we have to disabuse everyone of that notion, even with the squad, and we're going to get to this as we go on. And I know we're about to spin, but they have done more to kill my electoral beliefs than anybody else has been able to accomplish. Truly.
I agree. Yeah. And, people, my centrist normie friends think I'm absolutely insane now. Because even Bernie is like, dude, you got to vote for Biden. Dude, you got to, he's like, oh, it's not everything I want in the bill. I'm not going to vote for it. But
in the end,
it's doing some good stuff. So I could see why people would vote for it.
Right.
So it makes us look like we're 10,000 miles left of Bernie, which agreed we are, but he doesn't have to be that far from us. He could make us more normal by being where he was before he became part of Biden's cabinet.
Yeah.
Or not cabinet. Is he part of the cabinet? Technically, he's the
head of
chair.
Health. I don't think so. I don't think that's a cabinet
part
position.
Of the cabinet.
Yeah.
Still. Unofficially.
All right. Spinning. Spin the wheel. Let's do it. I can taste that shot.
Yeah, baby.
Look at that. I manifested it.
And we may need to play a video so I can pour another drink. I don't know how I'm going to mix another cocktail. I'm out of my martinis.
No, say it ain't so. All right. Should I find a video?
Let's do a cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Okay.
I don't know. What do we got? We forgot our timeline cleanse. So let's play our longest timeline cleanse, and we'll see if I can make it.
Okay.
Minute or whatever.
Yeah, that shot actually was that was a total palate cleanser. Okay. Let me you go mix your drink. I'm gonna find something. Do we have anything? I have things that are gonna make people truly depressed now. Okay, let's talk about health insurance in the US to pick you up.
Knock, knock. Hi. Is this HR? Yes, come in. I'm sorry, am I interrupting? Oh, no. I was just enjoying some paperwork, but break time's over. Welcome to HR. You must be the new hire. Yep, I start on Monday. Well, the first order of business is choosing a health insurance plan. Have you looked over the options? I did, but it's a little confusing. Of course. If it made sense, it wouldn't be U.S. healthcare. Let's look at the menu. The menu? Yeah, we repurposed it from the Cheesecake Factory. It was the only thing that was big enough. Okay. So you can choose the high premium, low deductible plan or the high deductible HSA. Well, how much is... There's also the PPO Plus, the HMO, and the CMO. What is the CMO? Comfort measures only. Insurance will kick in as soon as you lay down in your deathbed. It covers a business Zoom subscription so you can say goodbye to your family and friends, and a daily cookie. Oh, chocolate chip? Oatmeal raisin. Ugh. Well, what about this plan? That plan only covers diseases which have been eradicated. Isn't that just smallpox? Well, we think guinea worm disease is on its way out. Well, what else is there? I'm so glad you asked. So this plan gives you customer service, or you can upgrade to this plan where the customer service is kind of helpful. This plan will cover all chiropractic adjustments, but will not cover any subsequent devastating complications. With this plan, you get to insure an organ of your choosing. I recommend brain. The insurance company approves your claim, but a random claim from somebody else is immediately denied. It's like the purge, but for 12 hours, there are no prior authorizations. You can only be operated on by med students. Veterinarian care only. Only one hospital is in network, but you won't know which one. You have to guess. And with this plan, everything is covered. Oh, insurance executives only. Sorry. Anyway, what do you think? I don't know. I guess I'll just go with the HSA. Great choice. And all the plans come with a complimentary GoFundMe page. I don't need a GoFundMe. Not yet.
I don't know if that's a pick me up, but it's that was good timing, Pat. Good job.
I was watching in time. I panicked and just poured myself a Borg. I literally just grabbed some. I grabbed some stuff from my cabinet, and I don't know what it's gonna taste like, but
I feel like Blue Borg is your drink. Like overall, you're the Blue Borg.
That is not bad.
Really, tell me what's in it.
I wish I knew what I poured. I swear to God, I have no idea, except I know one of them was the blue curacao.
Curacao. I love that blue curacao. All right, let's get back to it. Look what I did. Oh, sorry. You gotta have it just so.
Yeah, baby.
Oh boy. Yeah, Riot Punch. That's hilarious. Borg for the win. Well, the good news is
Is there good news?
The good news is a virus that has evolved new variants every few months and has killed potentially 20 million people in 3 years and disabled millions more is continuing to evolve and circulate. We're ignoring it because the fascists get mad when we try to protect ourselves. This I thought was terrifying. This is in the UK now. Percentage of people who test positive for COVID who are dead within 28 days in England. Right now, it is 1
in 25.
In 25. 1 in 25. That is insanity. And I know part of the reason is because obviously people aren't testing, people are asymptomatic, they don't know. You know, recently a few different things have happened where people kind of give me looks or say like, are you still masking? Why are you masking? Or it's okay, you don't have to mask. And I'm trying to figure out what the best response is. Is it like, oh no, I just tested positive for COVID? Like, I wonder what they would say if I was like, no, I have COVID. If that would make them nervous or
yeah.
And that, or people will be like, you know, you've probably already had it, you know that, right? And I'm like, yeah, but okay, fine. But because I always mask in public, what that means is I have not passed it on to anybody. Like, where is that idea of how we protect each other? I don't get it. It's just completely gone.
It is. And I mean, look, I just want to go back to that 1 in 25. Like that number's probably going to hit us because we're not testing either. It's a call to action. We should be taking some step here. I mean, China has got another outbreak. We have 3 to 4 waves of COVID expected every year here. That's kind of what we've fallen into as the new norm. 3 to 4 waves of this. We still have no idea what happens when you've had this thing 5-6 times on average.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's going to be the norm next year. Next year, most people, I mean, that if you get it 2 to 3 times a year, I mean, the math on this is awful. If you look at just the impact that's going to have on our healthcare system,
yep,
it's going to be off the fucking charts. It's not sustainable, which is why we need to be lobbying for Medicare for all as the top issue because of the need, which is created by this shitty COVID situation, but we should not be ignoring COVID because it is our way to get Medicare for all because we need it here.
Yeah.
And so many
Yeah.
people are going to be afflicted by COVID situations that they don't even understand is related to COVID, but they're going to be sick is all they're going to know. They're going to.
Well, you saw the thing with all the cyclists in Italy dropping out. I think like how many was it? 51 elite cyclists have dropped out of major Giro d'Italia tournament so far. Now 71 racers remain. More have dropped out this tournament than even in 2020 in the first COVID wave. And like, these are athletes that want to take care of their bodies and actually the winner
it's okay.
Good.
Well, they're outside, so they don't need the mask.
But actually the winner, and I don't, because it was a Dr. Eric Feigelding. You're lagging. Do you know that? You're like, do you know you're lagging? Am I lagging? Are we all lagging?
What you're lagging on my end, so I don't know.
Really?
Audience, tell us who's lagging.
Yeah, I know who's really lagging.
Is it Lila?
It's probably me. Go ahead, tell them. Yeah, I think whoever won whichever race just finished yesterday or today was actually wearing an N95 while he was cycling, like going up hills, like, but they,
You're kidding.
Yeah,
wow.
I am not. Even look at that. Well,
look at these people in the chat getting blocked left and right.
Look.
block.
Well, whoops. Block. I don't know.
Oh, good comment. Blocked.
Wait, I don't even, it counteracts the fact I don't know what that is, but okay. Yeah, so I think for a lot of people, and I know we've talked about this before, but the fact that the government, like Trump was awful, so liberals could just be like, he's awful, we're going to do the opposite of him. Then Biden came in and made everything that Trump wanted to do palatable to liberals also. So now we've got all the right and liberals just like done with COVID, moving on, making fun of anybody who cares about it. Like, oh, you're so precious, or you've probably had before, to the point where like, I'm constantly having to be like, oh, like I'm about to see my mom. So that's why when we invite you over, we're asking you please to test. And then because we're so embarrassed that we're asking people for just like basic consideration, Josh runs over and brings them our tests because you couldn't possibly ask somebody to do, like, it's all so insane. But I think, almost everybody that I know has had it and there's no end in sight. The government is like, that's fine. You're fine. Just go to work, put your kids in school. And I think there's a level of just giving up because
there is, but I think
it's going to have exponentially bad health effects down the line.
That's what it comes down to. Look, if this was just the flu and some people are going to die from the flu, if it was that situation, it would be a different conversation we're having. But it's not that. It's that you basically get like airborne AIDS of some sort. Your immune system is damaged for 6 months for a lot of people. And that's not even taking into the cumulative effects of this stuff. So at the end of the day, we can be the biggest pansies and whatever you want to call us over precautious folks, but like logic is on our side on this one, on this stuff. It's clear as day, the science, that you don't want to get this thing multiple times. And we don't know what happens after 5 or 6 exposures to most of the population.
Yeah. I mean, syphilis is making an enormous comeback. I don't know if you've seen that. It's up like 40% or something. Oh, I love that you're drinking it in a fancy glass. I just saw that the Capitol building
is making a comeback. Was
that
lagging?
The state Capitol building in Connecticut is reintroducing mask mandates because there are outbreaks. The people in power, they take this seriously. They do not want to get it over and over again. And they know, even they know when they get it, they test every day. You have to test to go into a room with them. Yeah. They clean the air, they ventilate, and they have the best doctors. So and they're still taking it seriously.
part of the problem we have as far as hoping to get some good policy in place is that politicians are short-term thinkers every single time. It's built into capitalism. It's built into our political system. They've got 2 to 4 years maybe in place. So the consequence of their bad policy is not going to affect their political careers. And it's definitely not going to affect their political careers when they agree with all the other politicians, because there isn't a single fucking soul in politics fighting for us.
Yeah.
So we need some advocates, that's why the squad and Bernie has chaired the fucking Senate Health Committee, not fighting to prolong the emergency declaration, is just depressing as all fucking hell.
It really is. I mean, it was interesting. Was it at the State of the Union? He was the only person wearing an N95 mask. Like, he knows how bad it is because he's not stupid. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking like COVID, disability, roulette, it's Alzheimer's by 50 to 80% increase. White matter in your brain damage, equivalent to 7 years of aging, almost a full year after mild to moderate COVID. Spike in heart attacks in young people, and they're not really supposed to have heart attacks at all. A recent study found that heart attacks in people ages 25 to 44 increased by 30% compared to the expected number over the first 2 years of COVID. One thing that I thought was interesting was this horrific doctor who's a big COVID minimizer, let it rip, Great Barrington Declaration, Bhattacharya, however you pronounce his name. And this is something, it is so cynical and deceptive. It's the same thing that Elon Musk did about forcing people back to work and how that wasn't fair. And it was only the poorer classes, working class, who had to go to work. And that's why he was forcing all
people
Tesla people back to work, instead of saying everybody should just stay home. So here he's saying, this is a guy who's against lockdowns, but he was saying they didn't work and that they were detrimental. His own chart that he is it's not his chart, but the chart that he's using shows that in March 2020, Toronto imposed a harsh lockdown of the city to flatten COVID. Over the next 2 months, COVID spreads in the poorest neighborhoods while the richest ones stay home and stay safe. Well, the solution to that isn't everybody should go out then and get sick. It should be everybody should be paid to stay home. So we flatten the curve, but they're never going to go to that place. It's always just, another reason why we shouldn't mask, we shouldn't lock down. Everybody needs to go back to work and school. It seems like Pat is absolutely having a problem with his lagging. All right. The last thing, I'm going to just remind everybody is when you do your home antigen tests, which everyone should be doing, this doctor just wrote, same time, same person, this woman, one is just swabbing the nose, the other with throat swabbed as well. And the one with the throat swabbed as well comes back positive. The nose only, it didn't detect that she was COVID positive. So
yes,
when you do those tests,
swab your throat. And I would recommend your throat before your nose.
Okay, I was going to say that too. And then I was like, why is the inside of our nose so gross, but the inside of our throat isn't? Why am I just of course you would never do your nose to your throat, which of course I wouldn't, but I don't know, all the phlegm, it's all but somehow that's grosser for sure. For sure. I just want you to know, I totally agree.
You would taste the impact
your boogers.
of your,
yeah,
that's the only grossness.
Yeah. Anyway, so do the back of your throat and then your nose and then... All right.
Back of the throat,
what do you
baby.
think? Always comes back to high school prom. Every time.
We're spinning.
Okay.
Did I disappear on the feed, by the
way? You were very
okay.
lagged and blurry.
Because I couldn't hear anything you said for a minute.
It was like magic for you. Is that a little vacation?
Yeah,
I was
baby.
Serenity now.
Look at that. You came back just in time. I'm trying to
shots.
Yeah, boogers. That's like a grade
Throat
school
swab.
word. Um,
Never mind.
I know. I'm reading all your good comments here.
I was like, is that your porn name?
wait, I had to catch up.
Cheers.
My face is so red now. I think it was my putrid olives. Never can let that happen again. Cheers.
It's my embarrassing jokes.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah, baby.
That was actually the perfect sound effect.
That was the perfect sound effect. The problem is I love everything that Professor Paul wrote in his book about an economic bill of rights. We all deserve it. It's so maddening because it is such clear logic. Of course, that would make everybody safer, happier, healthier. God damn it. Well, congratulations, Biden, master negotiator for something he did not even have to negotiate. He could have just cited the 14th Amendment and been done with it the way he said he wasn't going to. But what a guy. He reached across the aisle to his good friends on the right and got some working requirements for the poorest people in our country. Poverty is the fourth leading cause of death, and this deal will make it harder to get food stamps, but easier to spend money on war. Yes, of course, because we increased the military budget.
Yeah. And I know this is actually, we put this up for another segment, but Biden wasn't supposed to negotiate this deal at all. Like, that's the whole point. He started with, we don't negotiate with this stuff, and you just stick with this. That's what you go with. You don't negotiate any of this stuff. That's how you have a budget negotiation when there's a fight over the budget every fucking year, and then it's settled, and you already compromised away everything the left wanted in your fucking budget deal. And now we're setting the precedent that they're gonna hold the economy hostage every time so that they can get more right-wing shit put into it every fucking cycle. So here they were. Here's where they started on the budget, and here's where
He has been very clear. We are not going to negotiate over the debt limit.
Did the president wait too long to engage with the Republicans on the negotiations that he's in the middle of right now?
The president has been engaging or trying to engage with Republicans for months now. For months.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
No, what they did is they took away time for him to use the 14th Amendment. They took away time for us to pressure him to get rid of it.
Yeah. And he knew from the beginning he could do it. And then he always says things about, oh, well, we're looking into the legality of it. It'll just get fought in the courts. And, he always has a reason. The parliamentarian, Joe Manchin, Joe Manchin is such a detriment to Congress that his wife gets a cush job and he gets a pipeline. And that's his good friend, Joe. I mean, it is so appalling. And then to see, a couple of progressives have talked about how they're looking into what exactly this means, but it doesn't seem great. Here's Ro Khanna saying, as a progressive, here's my concern with the debt ceiling agreement. It takes food stamps away from older, vulnerable Americans. It fast tracks dirty fossil fuel projects. It triggers student debt payments for 40 million people. We're facing the greatest climate and affordability crisis in recent history, and we're about to make things a lot worse for people struggling the most. How do y'all think he's going to end up voting?
Yeah, here's my concern. Here are the things I support. Here are good things and bad things, but I got to vote for it. That's what's going to happen. Like, they've made it so there's no other option now. It's May 31st. They said that it crashes the 5th. The debt crisis comes to a head at the 5th. It's our latest date. Maybe they come up with some new numbers and they're like, oh no, you actually have till the 8th or the 10th, whatever. Yeah. But the point is, we could have averted all of this. Biden, even if he didn't want to use the 14th Amendment, could have stuck to his guns, put a bill forward and made the Republicans vote against it. They could make the Republicans vote against a bill that just extends the death limit, doesn't add any of these changes.
Yep.
Then the political onus on stopping the economy is entirely on the Republican Party. They are the ones who decided to have this fight now instead of at the budget debate where it belonged.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I know everybody watching the show knows, but it is so maddening because this is who Biden has been for his 40-year career. They, Bernie should have gone really hard on him for always wanting to cut entitlements, Social Security, Medicare. I mean, it is just a fluke that didn't happen, because I think Biden talked by accident, said that at the State of the Union. Was that where he said that we absolutely won't do it? And then Republicans said that they won't do it. So that's why it's sort of off the table. Even Trump said we're not touching Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah,
but
we'll have Social Security with work requirements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
hey, you got to be a greeter at Walmart. You got to be a greeter at Walmart for 7 hours at least.
Prove that you're trying hard.
Something.
God damn it. Okay. Yeah. Well, that feels like a dare, Devin. And I gotta say, you never know with him. Pretty sure he could suck harder, but I agree with the basic idea of that.
I think the problem is that it's easy to just go, look, bad strategy. They force their hand, and even if you think Democrats are like they mean well, you can just go, yeah, he's a shitty negotiator. That they always get outplayed on the left, but at the end of the day, you have to step back from that and look at his history and look at what he's wanted his whole time. Look at that they're fighting. They're including Manchin's fucking pipeline.
Oh my God.
Look at all the things they're doing. And
more money for the military.
They're ending. Biden has tried every 6 months to restart student loan repayments. He's wanted to do that every 6 months, but there's been too much political pressure on him not to. So now he gets to go, oof, it's in here. The economy would have come to a stop if I had followed through with the plan that I put in place, just like I did every 6 months. I put in a place every 6 months to restart.
And listen, people they like bipartisanship, which, as soon as they say bipartisan, we're all getting fucked. But I negotiated. People like when government works. It wouldn't be responsible. I remember like the clip that we showed last week of Ro Khanna saying, "Listen, we could have said we're not going to negotiate this unless you give us Medicare for all and cancel student debt. But we're responsible. We negotiate." And the responsible thing actually would to be the Freedom Caucus. That's what we need. We need a Freedom Caucus of the left.
Absolutely.
And instead, we've got this.
The majority of Congress does not have a sense of urgency as it relates to doing something about this issue. Everybody's just going about their business, going about their day, in their nice suits, going to fundraisers, raising money, getting reelected, and they're not doing shit. Like, why are we negotiating with them on anything if they don't want to do anything about their guns? Why are we negotiating on any issue? Any issue? If we have people in Congress that are okay with our children being killed and gun violence being the #1 killer of children in America, we have lost our soul as a nation. And so when I processed all of this consciously and subconsciously before I came out and started yelling at reporters to ask Republicans what the hell are they going to do about gun violence, which is what led to Massey addressing me and then us having that back and forth. But for me, as I hear everyone speak on the issues that we're fighting for, I'm really grateful and appreciative to them and all of us and all of you. But I'm also like, damn, like we gotta take over this whole shit. And I mean right now, like 2024 is a wrap. It's not just taking back the House. We got to grow seats in the Senate. We've got to drag this 80-year-old man across the finish line of the win.
Why?
I'm sorry, man, but I'm upset, because here's the other thing, right? It's like,
Why Biden?
I know, right?
Why?
I know. And maybe it should be one of us.
I mean, there's so many parts of that video that make my skin crawl. First
And
of all,
he's also right, but
I know, but like he's bringing up his sort of like big drama confrontation with Massey.
Yeah.
Like that was, like I want to see it in the actions and the votes, not just in that, right? That's number one. And then the snapping edit, and then why do you have to drag his ass across? Why?
he's right about needing to take over it now. Like that's the thing. That's the part where am I cutting out?
A little bit.
Everybody froze on me. Okay, he's right about needing to take over now. That's the part is it still skipping?
it's kind of going in and out.
I have a rant.
Right again.
I'm ready to rant.
Yeah, go.
You're doing this, Lila. You're doing it.
Go ahead, do it.
No, but he's right about us needing to take over now. He's right about the Democrats taking over now. I mean, of the progressives taking over now. But he frames it all around the Democrats taking over. And what needs to be taken over is the party needs to be taken over now. They need to fucking have some sack and fight their own goddamn party. They don't need to drag Biden across the line. That's not what you do. And they just think they fall into the same trap that centrists do. They think, well, it's bad strategy on Biden's part. He's not young and hip and doesn't have the right strategy. Well, he has the perfect strategy, but the strategy doesn't represent us. It's a strategy to get what he's always wanted across the finish line, which is these fucking cuts in these programs.
Yeah, no, he knows exactly how to fight. I even think Jamal Bowman knows that. I mean, I don't think Bowman's like a fan of Biden, but you're right. And I mean, Devin's saying, who was asking why? I don't know. That was a video by the Indie Network News, INN. So it might be somebody affiliated with them. I'm not sure, but he never answers that question. And yeah, I would have so much more respect for Bowman if he announced himself as a candidate. Like, you know what? I'm going to primary. I'm like, that would be inspirational. He should primary Biden with Nina Turner and Sarah Nelson and whoever the hell else. Get out there and take this decrepit Republican down. He is
any
horrific.
one of them just to raise the issues, just to be a contrarian. Otherwise, you're going along with all these cuts to social programs. You're going along with everything that Biden's always wanted to do as a true Republican. He is.
Yep.
And you're a progressive and you're not going to fucking do anything.
I know. It's hard. I mean, listen, Bernie's 81-year-old man who's probably done more to change the conversation in our country than any other politician in my lifetime. And I can't expect him to do everything. But, in 2012, he threatened to primary Barack Obama for saying that he would possibly negotiate about Social Security and Medicare. I mean, he ran in 2016 because Warren wouldn't, and he didn't want Hillary Clinton being the standard bearer for the Democratic Party moving forward. And now we're just going to settle on Joe Biden.
You take any issue and Biden is creating an unsustainable thing for the middle class and the world, like climate.
Yep.
Unsustainable position. His position is dooming the planet, dooming humanity, literally dooming humanity. Nobody's going to fucking stand up to him. COVID. I mean, healthcare. It's unsustainable. We are not going to be able to afford to give people healthcare. I mean, to
take care of our citizens. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, too many people are going to fall to other diseases from having fucked up immune systems, and we're seeing it happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. We're not even funding next generation cures like vaccines and treatments like we should. In fact, the latest budget fucking deal cuts $30 billion of COVID money is taken back. So unspent money that should have been spent on COVID is going to be taken back as part of this negotiation. So they're pretending COVID doesn't exist even more as part of this negotiation that never should have fucking happened.
Don't let them tell you that Dems don't know how to fight. They just aren't fighting for us. I did think
2024.
What'd you say?
I said Borg 2024.
Yeah, Borg.
I'm gonna start
Borg
selling
president.
some fucking bumper stickers.
We do have some friends out here in California who I know this is sort of what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to get to 2024 entirely as a wheel segment, but we did just want to shout out our friend Sukaru and people who are working hard to remind Gavin Newsom and our supermajority out here in California what they ran on. So here's a little bit of direct action, give you some excitement.
Good morning, Los Angeles. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Madam First Partner. Thank you, California Democrats. Thank you for being up early and showing up on time. I'm not used to being on time as a Democrat. I want to just express, first and foremost, my appreciation, my respect for all of you that are exercising your rights and in free expression. This is the free state of California. Eat your heart out, Florida and Texas. That's why I love being a Democrat. Let me thank all of you. I made a commitment to Rusty. I made a commitment to my wife.
You know, that's what it's going to take, just humiliating these people. But he did promise, he ran on single payer universal health care and then refused to let it even go to the floor.
You know what? He fake supported Bernie back in 2020, and that gave him some sort of credibility on the left, and he fake supported Medicare for all as well. And here we are seeing him. He rejected the first bill, and now he's going to come before him for a vote, and he'll probably vote for it. I mean, as governor or whatever, he's not going to vote for it, but he'll support it because they'll know it won't pass. They'll count the votes. Rusty Hicks, who runs the Democratic Party, complete corporate shield, shitbag, no interest in representing people at all. I mean,
yeah.
So, and I know we've mentioned this before, but I just have to bring it up every time. California had the votes to pass Medicare for all the first time around. We pressured the politicians. We, meaning all the activists in California. There was a huge campaign. Publicly, we shamed them. We named and shamed them, which is the only way you get them to support you on any fucking issue. And we did that. It was a massive, massive campaign pressure on these people. And they all were able to hide, but the parliamentarian, essentially, the guy who decides what comes to a vote, tabled the bill. Anthony Rendon tabled the bill so it could not be voted on, because if it was voted on, it would have had to pass, or all these people would have been called out as liars because we got them on the record.
Right.
California, it's in the Democratic platform, literally written in the platform to pass universal health care. It's like our goals as a Democratic Party in California are to pass health universal, and they won't put it up for a vote. So it's going to come for a vote again. It'll be the same thing probably, but it'll pass one assembly and not the other, because they won't let it go to the other assembly to pass.
They'll find a parliamentarian or some little loophole that makes it impossible, and we just have to wait a little more. Just have to get a few more. Just vote. Don't boo, vote.
Yes, but
shut up and vote.
I sound like I'm poo-pooing their efforts, and I'm not at all, because this is what needs to happen. They need to be shamed as hard as possible, and we need to put it to a vote. We need to get the same people on the record again, and then we need an action afterwards. We need, when they refuse to put it to a second vote to pass both houses, then we need to do some serious shit because it's the second time that they're gonna try to use an Anthony Rendon or whatever their next plan is.
Yeah,
and we need to be ready and come back harder at the second thing.
You know, this is where I do think that electoral politics should be used, which is to have a true progressive person on the left, Shama Sawant, or whoever, to threaten to primary challenge the Gavin Newsom, so that they do not feel so secure, and really sort of that has to be the threat, because we are never going to outbuy them. So the threat has to be to humiliate them with a strong candidate who can really, lodge a real candidacy against them. And I mean, that's where I'm not sure where to go with that, but I don't know. I mean, I love these actions. I love shaming these people, but you're right. There has to be another consequence even after that, when they come up with their next excuse. Pat is frozen again.
People fall on somebody who's
and now he's speaking. Yeah, you got, it's a bunch of stuff going on there. Pat, do you want to try and to reconnect, or where are you in your whole process here? I'm looking to see if we have any good video to show while Pat tries to reconnect. Not sure. I do just want to say, while he's trying to figure it out on his end, that this was, as I do think that the working class and the labor movement and unions and strikes are becoming more and more popular in our country, which is the only way we're ever going to, solve any of this, is to put pressure on. This was a sign at Chipotle recently. Due to shareholder greed, our portion sizes will continue to shrink. Please do not ask our employees to hook up your burrito. They will be fired from this terrible job. Remember how good of a value we used to be, which I thought was sort of funny. This is over 70% of Americans, including 63% of Trump's voters, support the writers' strike, which is amazing considering this guy crossed a picket line to promote his Netflix movie about workers and working while his own daughter is in the WGA. I mean, that is just...
You can't make this shit up.
Chef's kiss. There's Obama, who, by the way, is the one who gave us the friggin' gig economy. And then all of the people from his cabinet and his speechwriters and everybody went off to work for the either Prop 22 or the GoFundMe and Uber. They all head up all those gig economy jobs.
Hey,
what a disaster.
GoFundMe has done more for our healthcare than most healthcare companies.
Isn't that amazing? All right, what do you think? Should we end on a happy
I think so, especially, I don't know what's going on with the internet, but
I know, I'm sorry.
What do we got? I like the goats. Should we
yeah, this little goat. This is how I feel in my life.
Get him. Yeet. Yeet. Capitalism right here. Why are we not on screen? Where are we? Why me? No, not just me.
The whole thing's falling apart.
You.
All right, listen. Thank you all for joining us. Scheduling note, I am flying tomorrow to go see my dear mom who has a birthday, and I'm flying back next Wednesday. So we do not have a show next Wednesday, but we will be back better than ever with all of our glitches figured out, I'm hoping, in 2 weeks. Thank you to Mark Paul for joining us. Thanks to all of you for hanging out, and keep punching up.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.